All right, let's get right into this. We're going to unpack the story of an artifact so perfect, so incredibly mysterious, that it seemed like it could actually rewrite history. I'm talking about a flawless crystal skull, supposedly thousands of years old, that would go on to baffle scientists and fuel one of the greatest adventure stories ever told. The story begins just like all the great legends do, right? With a hook you just can't resist. Picture this. You're hacking your way through a jungle nobody's ever mapped, looking for a city lost to time, and you're on the verge of a discovery that could connect ancient worlds. And right at the center of it all is this guy, Frederick Albert Mitchell Hedges. Now, he wasn't some stuffy academic. He was a self-styled adventurer, a spy, a soldier, you name it. This was a man who didn't just run from danger, he embraced it. He made it his ally. He even titled his autobiography that. That pretty much tells you everything you need to know about the kind of character we're dealing with here. And the world he claimed to have conquered? Oh man, it was a total death trap. We're talking about the jungles of what was then British Honduras, now Belize. You had deadly vipers hiding in the leaves, jaguars stalking from the trees, and parasites in every drop of water. Mitchell Hedges painted this incredibly vivid picture of a man battling a truly hostile wilderness. So you might be asking, why would anyone go through all that? Well, he wasn't just looking for some old ruins. Mitchell Hedges was chasing this huge, world-changing idea. He was convinced that the Maya civilization got its incredible head start from survivors of the legendary lost continent of Atlantis, and he was absolutely determined to find the proof. And all of this adventuring, all this danger, it all builds to the absolute climax of the legend, the Skull of Doom and its supposed discovery inside a cursed temple. Okay, so according to the legend, the timeline was something straight out of a movie. After they discover the lost city of Lubantan, they find the small opening way up on top of its main pyramid. Of course, the local guides refuse to go in, claiming it's cursed. So, on her 17th birthday, Mitchell Hedges' own young daughter, Anna, is lowered into the darkness. A young girl, a cursed temple, and a treasure just sitting there on an altar. It's perfect. And here, in her own words, is Anna's story of that exact moment. It just feels so personal, so immediate. You can almost picture the scene, right? The dark, the glint of crystal, and the absolute shock on her father's face. This quote, this personal story, was the reason the legend felt so real for so many decades. But this wasn't just some beautiful object. No, it immediately got this terrifying reputation. A local Maya elder supposedly told them that the skull had this immense power, that a high priest could actually use it to will someone to death. And just like that, it wasn't the crystal skull anymore. It was the Skull of Doom. For decades, that was the story, an absolutely thrilling tale of high adventure and ancient mystery. But what happens when a legend like this finally collides with the cold, hard facts of science? And this is the question that just changes everything. Was this incredible story of danger, discovery, and dark magic actually real? Or was it something else entirely? Well, the first thread starts to unravel right at the beginning of the story. Turns out, Mitchell Hedges didn't discover Luba-Antan at all. Official records are pretty clear that it was documented by a Dr. Thomas Gann over 2 decades earlier. So, right away, the very foundation of the legend starts to look pretty shaky. And then there's Anna's own testimony. You see, over the years, the date of the discovery kept changing. But the one detail that never ever wavered was that it happened on her 17th birthday. But here's the real kicker. Records and photos from the actual 1924 expedition show she wasn't even there. So investigators started looking at other mysterious crystal skulls that had popped up in museums. And what they found was a pattern. They were all traced back to this one guy, an antiquities dealer named Eugene Boban. And get this, when scientists put these skulls under an electron microscope, they found the telltale marks of modern 19th century German cutting wheels. They weren't ancient Maya artifacts. They were European fakes. And that brings us to the final act. With the legend totally unraveling, the real truth about the skull's origin was about to come out. Not in a jungle, but in a lab and in the dusty archives of an auction house. So in 2008, after Anna Mitchell Hedges passed away, The Skull of Doom was finally handed over for real scientific analysis at the Smithsonian. For the very first time, the world's most mysterious artifact was about to face the exact same scrutiny as all the other fakes. And the verdict? It was undeniable. Under the microscope, the Skull of Doom showed the exact same rotary tool marks that were found on the skulls sold by Eugene Boban. It was not carved by the Maya, it was a modern creation. But the scientific evidence was only half the story. The final, definitive proof, the real smoking gun, wasn't found in some dusty dig site. No, it was hiding in plain sight in the meticulously kept records of a London auction house. And the key was this year, 1943, 19 years after the supposed discovery in that cursed jungle temple. Because in 1943, records from Sotheby's auction house show that Frederick Mitchell Hedges didn't find the skull, he bought it. The entire adventure story was a fantasy he created decades after he actually got the object. So here it is, the skull's true journey. It was a 19th century European carving, passed through the hands of that notorious dealer Eugene Boban, and eventually sold at auction to the one man who would give it a legendary but completely fabricated backstory. So in the end, the Skull of Doom wasn't some ancient Maya artifact with supernatural powers. It was just a masterfully crafted object with an even more masterfully crafted story. Which really leaves us with one final question, doesn't it? Knowing it's all fake, why is the legend of a lost city and a cursed skull still so darn compelling?